But I want to get into this book, man. I'm excited about this book, David. Unsubscribe from anxiety. Opt out of the myth that worry is required, and take charge of your life now. You take charge of your own life now. Some people believe that there's things that you just need to worry about. People just believe that. Can you speak to that, David?
Well, I know. I absolutely can. You're right. There are a lot of people think that you do need to worry about things. But what does worry accomplish? Has worry ever made a situation better? Has anxiety ever solved a problem? And the answer is no, it hasn't, because problem solving is very different than worry and anxiety. Worry and anxiety just go around and around and around in circles, imagining all kinds of horrible outcomes, making you feel rotten, ruining your body because your blood pressure goes up and your, all kinds of terrible things happen to your body. And it doesn't solve the problem. So we want to take a different approach than that. And the whole point of unsubscribe from anxiety says that this is simply something, it's a habit that we've all picked up. We've all been told that we're supposed to worry. And that's why it's a myth, because it doesn't accomplish anything, and there are much better approaches. You see, ever since we were born, the world has been teaching us and conditioning us to worry and be anxious about things. Everywhere you go, you're watching 24/7 news. All these terrible, terrible things are happening. Or, just the Weather Channel, and it's saying, there's terrible, terrible storms. But in fact, as you well know, negative headlines sell and attract eyeballs and ears a whole lot more effectively than positive ones. And the news places want to get their ratings. So that's what they have. And they tell us, you need to know this right now. Well, no, I don't need to know it right now. And frankly, I'd rather have my blood pressure lower. So the whole thing is that it's been right from birth, we were taught and trained, and we observed the rest of the world, everybody else worrying. Well, we assume that it's a normal thing, but it's not normal. Now, there is, genuine fear. If you step out in the street and a bus is coming at you, that's a very different situation. You don't have anxiety about that. You have an instant reaction to a real and present danger, and you do something about it. The adrenaline kicks in, you jump out of the way, and then the emergency's gone. But worrying about your retirement, or worrying about that my friend didn't like my Facebook post, or getting all anxious about, I think this mole on my arm is getting bigger. That's a whole different thing. And anxiety doesn't help any of that.
Mm-hmm. Hey, David, why does negative headlines seem to sell more than positive headlines? Why is that?
Well, there's two reasons. Number one is, as human beings, we have built into our biology something that's called a negativity bias. And that was, evolved millions of years ago for when we were walking around and there were saber-toothed tigers there and they wanted to jump out and eat you for dinner. And it was really handy to have that built into our mentality, so that you could see something in the peripheral vision and say, that's probably bad, and then react to it. Well, the saber-toothed tigers are long gone, but the biology is still there. Only these days, instead of reacting to a real threat to your life, what we're reacting to is, I think my boss is upset with me, and now I'm worried about my job security. So that's the first reason, the biology that's called this negativity bias. Mm-hmm. The second reason is that we've been trained, as I said a minute ago, from birth to be focused on the negative. And negative things, and there's some ego involved in that as well, but we respond to negative things because we love the drama of it. We love the excitement of it. That's why people stand and watch a building burning down. There's some drama there. There's some excitement in what might be sort of ordinary lives. But good news is make you feel good, but it's kind of boring in comparison. So the negative headlines really grab your attention, but they don't make your life better in any kind of way. All they do is get us anxious, and then we lie awake at night worrying about it. Let me give you an example. Let's say you're watching the news, and you're watching your local news, and there's a story on there about a mugging, and they're going to do. Well, you got two choices. One is you can phone up your neighbor who is like-minded, and you're going to spend 2 hours on the phone with your neighbor talking about how the neighborhood is all going downhill, and I saw that house got abandoned, and see that old abandoned car up on blocks in the front street there. And you're looking for more and more evidence to reinforce your belief that the neighborhood is going downhill. And then you're all worried about it, and now, so you have a nice stiff drink to calm your nerves, and then you go to bed and lie awake all night because you're certain you're hearing noises and somebody's going to break into your house. And, that's what the negativity stuff does. Now, the other choice is you see a story on the TV that somebody got mugged. So, number one, you remind yourself that that stations are trying to raise their ratings, and negative stuff attracts eyeballs, and they're trying to get sponsors, so they need to keep their advertisers happy. So then you say, no, I'm going to change the channel, and I'm going to watch a nice uplifting movie or watch a concert or something like that. And then you think, well, I don't know whether the crime rates in my neighborhood are going up or not, but I don't believe everything that I hear on the news, so I'm going to take it on myself to look into that, do a little bit of research, and see for myself whether this is a trend or just an exception to a positive trend. And then maybe I'll decide that I'm going to make a campaign contribution to a candidate that has promised to clean up crime in my neighborhood. And then I'm going to sleep like a baby. You see the difference in how we can choose how we respond to different things that come into our lives.
Yeah. Now, this is going to sound...
And the worry and the anxiety doesn't help anything. It doesn't change the situation.
Yeah. But, David, if someone has been living in anxiety all their life, how are they going to all of a sudden change and start thinking, how are they going to be positive all of a sudden? How's that going to happen?
Aha. That's a good question. Well, the first thing to do is recognize that our anxiety thinking is just a habit.
Okay.
We've been doing it for so long that it seems normal, and we don't even think it. It's kind of like, you're breathing. We breathe 25,000 breaths every single day, and you can think about it, but it just seems normal, so you don't think about it. It just happens in the background. We've all been worrying and anxious for so long, and doing it all your life, and everybody else does it too, that you think, I guess that's normal. But if we recognize that, okay, this is just a habit that I've fallen into, and I don't like this habit, and it's not a useful habit to me, then I can decide I want to change it, because any habit can be replaced with a more healthy one or a more useful one. So step one is to recognize that it's a habit and to start observing yourself. So you want to catch yourself worrying. So you sort of set a note to yourself, for the next couple of weeks, I'm going to keep an eye on my thoughts. I'm going to be watching my thinking. And when I feel bad and I think, there I go worrying again about this or that, and I'm going to catch myself and I'm going to learn about my patterns of worry worrying. I'm going to learn how severe is my worry? What are my worry patterns? What are the triggers that cause me to start worrying? And so now I'm going to get to recognize my worry habits, and I'll say, aha, there I go again. I'm worrying. Would I like to stop? Yeah, I'd really like to stop. So then what we do is we analyze it and say, all right, what is it that I'm actually worried about? Because every anxiety has two parts to it. So one part is a desire that you have, and the other part is a fear. And let me give you an example. I would like to ask my boss for a raise, but I scare myself by imagining that she'll say, no, you can't have a raise, and in fact, you're fired. So I have this anxiety that prevents me from going to my boss and asking for a raise because I'm imagining this horrible outcome. And so what we realize is that the anxiety exists only in your brain. We don't know what the boss is going to say, but I'm creating this story. Or I'd like to ask my girlfriend to marry me, but I scare myself by imagining that she'll turn me down and say no, and then I'll be left alone and sad and all the rest of it. Yeah. So I avoid asking her because I've created this story in my head about a terrible outcome.
Yeah. Wow.
And we've just gotten so used to doing that, we never question whether this is a good way to think or not. We always go to the worst possible outcome. You know, the phone rings and we immediately, who's that? I bet it's a bill collector calling, or somebody knocks on the door and you think, maybe it's the police showing up and say to tell me that my son's been in an accident. But why would it be that? Why wouldn't it be somebody knocking on your door? No, it's Publishers Clearinghouse coming and they've got your $1 million check for you. You know, or in my case here today, my phone rang. Why wouldn't it be Rick Young phoning to see if he wants to talk to me about the book? You know, it's just as likely to be a positive thing as it is to be a negative thing.
All right. So
we want to start replacing this habit and go to the positive outcome because it's just as likely to be that as to be a negative one.
Hey, David, your phone rings. You pick it up. It's the person who's in charge of the United Nations. He says to you, David, I heard you on this radio show in Harlem, WHCR. I heard you. I was listening to the station. I saw you on YouTube, and we want you to come to the United Nations to share your message. What is David A. Stone's message going to be to the United Nations? This is going out to the world now. What's going to be David A. Stone's message to the world at the United Nations?
My message is going to be that, number one, all our anxieties, all our worries exist only in our heads. If there are genuine threats, we can take action to do something about that. But the worry and anxiety block us from becoming the enormously wonderful human beings that we all have the potential to be, because they frighten us out of taking the actions that we all want to do. We all have dreams, but these self-doubts cut the dreams off at the knees. I could never become a millionaire. I could never run a marathon. I could never marry somebody like that. She's way out of my league. and you're done before you even start.
Right. Wow.
That would be my message.
Wow. That is.
So let's
go ahead.
Let's get out of our own way.
Uh-huh. And
that's what I would say to your listeners and to the United Nations.
Yeah. You think the reason why people drink alcohol and use drugs, is that due to anxiety as well?
Absolutely, because it just, our brains are filled with this pain so much of which is imaginary, and so we want to dull the pain. And what's the easiest way? To have a drink or pop a pill, and then the pain gets dulled. But it doesn't take away the problem. And if we, and there's so many. Did you know that anxiety and depression medications are the most prescribed medications in the U.S. now? They account for almost 10% of all medications prescribed are for anxiety and depression. And all that does is just dull your brain down so that you don't feel bad anymore. It doesn't make the anxiety go away. It just dulls it down. So why don't we solve the problem in the first place? Now, Rick, I want to be clear about something as well, and that is there is no doubt that there are some people with anxiety and depression. No question about that.
Okay.
And that those people are blessed to be able to have medical help and prescription drugs to help them. But the vast majority of us who just suffer that sort of low-grade anxiety that we bring on ourselves, we don't need that. But I'm not talking about the people with genuine mental illness, and I want to make sure that your listeners understand that. We're talking about the vast majority of us who just convince ourselves with that little voice that's in our head all day long saying, "Oh, you better be worried about that. Why didn't they like your Instagram post? What's wrong with your friends? Do they not like me anymore? No. And we spiral down with this thing."
So, David, I'm the kind of guy that when I grew up, I liked the game of basketball. I enjoyed the game, watching it. I enjoyed playing it. The engineer's making faces now because he played basketball too. He played at a very high level, so he's making faces. So anyway, I was the kind of guy that when I got on the court, I was not afraid of anybody on the court. Like, oh, so-and-so is playing, right? Now, the engineer, let's just say he was on the court and Michael Jordan got on the court. He would have high anxiety because Michael Jordan is on the court playing on the other team. He would have high anxiety about that. And he doesn't understand
Why would we have anxiety? Now, so here's the way we figure out why I'm having anxiety. So here's the statement. We say, I would like to do such and such, but I scare myself by imagining that. Okay, I would like to play basketball on this court, but I scare myself that Michael Jordan is going to what? What's going to happen?
He might get 60 on you.
Yeah,
he might. He might slam it in your face a few times. I know
he's going to be better than me. But so what? How is that going to ruin our lives? I'll get my butt kicked around the court by him, but I'll be able to go to my friends and say, "You'll never guess what? I was shooting hoops with Michael Jordan." Yeah. How cool is that?
Yeah.
So the anxiety. And
I wouldn't say that. Sorry, I wouldn't say how cool is that. I wouldn't say that. I would go at him, at Mike. I would go at him. Like, that's just who I am. I'm going at you. Doesn't matter.
And that's great. And that's wonderful. And he'd probably have a good time. And the other thing about anxiety is, especially in sports, if you're worried about it, you're not going to be able to play nearly as well as you were if you're just relaxed and chill.
Yeah. I grew up in the housing, and there was another housing development across the road that not far from us. So I'm on the court. I knew I was good. Yeah. I knew I had a decent game. So there was another there was another guy from the other projects. He came, and this guy swore he was so great. I'm like, who does this guy think he is? And and I went at him. We went at each other, and then we developed a certain respect for one another. That's how it is. That's what I say, David. I think by that way you develop a certain respect for your opponent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And here's an interesting thing. the vast majority of things that we worry about never, ever actually come true.
Okay.
You know, we worry, and then it doesn't happen. I'm worried about the weather, and then the weather, it turned out to be a sunny day anyway. There's a great statement. Apparently, Thomas Jefferson said it, and he said that my life has been filled with horrible events, most of which never happened.
Wow.
And so, but every once in a while, yeah, stuff happens in life, and, you know, life hands you a sour one, and so you think, okay, this terrible thing happened. Now, the fact that you and I are sitting here today talking on this interview proves that every single challenge that has ever come up to you and to me, we have overcome because we're still alive and still breathing.
Okay.
And some of them have been tough. Some of them knocked us down for a minute, but we got back up and brushed ourselves off. And if we're smart, we'll say, all right, what lesson did I learn there? What will I take going forward that will either prevent me from getting into that situation again, or if I find myself in that situation again, I'll handle it differently than I did the last time. Mm-hmm. So instead of being afraid of these things, then we want to grab them and run with them and say, yeah. Because when we look at the heroes in life, and whether it's Michael Jordan, you mentioned him, or whether it's, one of my favorites is Sir Richard Branson. I love the guy, what he's done. Well, these people just go at stuff all the time, and they like to do what they call they fail quickly. They fail fast, because that way they learn the lessons faster, and then they can get to where they want to go. So instead of being afraid to try something, and because they're afraid to fail, they say, no, let's go. Let's jump on it. And if we fail, then that'll be a lesson for us. They embrace it. I mean, a little 12-month-old baby, they fail all the time. They're trying to walk, right? And they're up on their, they get balanced on their 2 feet. They're hanging onto the table or the chair, and then they let go, and boom, they fall down. Now, if it was an adult, they'd say, this is too hard. I'll just sit here. But not the baby. They're looking around and they're saying, wow, this is a big world. I want to travel in it. I want to see what else there is. I can get around faster on 2 legs than 4. And the cool thing is they have not yet got the memo that failure is a bad thing.
Right. Hey, David, I want to share. David, I want to share.
We get that.
David, I want to share a quote with you.
When we.
David, I'd like to share a quote with you. I'd like to know your feelings on this. What becomes present for you when you listen to this quote?
Sure.
Are you ready? David, are you ready? Can you hear me, David?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, all right, good.
Yeah, did I lose you? Yeah, I'm here. I'm ready.
Yeah, so it says, I have missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I have lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I failed over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed. What became present for you, David, when you heard that quote?
Yep. That's Michael Jordan, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. What became present for you when you heard that quote? What became present for you, David, when you heard that quote?
That's a wonderful thing, because what it does is makes people want to, try again. And if you were always afraid that you wouldn't make the shot, you'd never take the shot.
Right.
But there's another one. Sports hero Wayne Gretzky, and he said, "You miss 100% of the shots that you never take."
Wow, there you go. Nice. I heard that Wayne Gretzky, he doesn't go.
And that applies to life as well.
Yeah, but they said Wayne Gretzky doesn't go where the puck is. he goes to where the puck is going to be. My engineer, Doug, he just said that you're not going to die if you miss.
No.
He took a lot of shots. He was a shooter. He took a lot of shots. So he knows. Mm-hmm. He says, you ain't going to die if you miss.
No, we're not going to die. And the vast majority of things, I mean, the actual things that are coming at you that you're going to die from are extremely low. Mm-hmm. And most of those ones, we know how to avoid those ones. But we create this drama in our heads. I mean, let me give you an example, all right? So I go in, I'm driving to work, and there's a really big traffic jam. And I'm going to be late for work. But there's a meeting at 8 o'clock, and I'm supposed to be at this meeting. But now I'm going to be late for the meeting. Uh-huh. And I get to work, and I tell the boss, the traffic made me late.
Okay.
And the boss says, you should have been here. And now I'm worried that the boss is mad at me. And now but I got my review coming up, and I think the boss is going to give me a bad review, and then I'm going to get fired because our company is going to get acquired, and I'm going to get downsized, and then I'll be unemployed, and then I won't be able to buy anything, and then I'll be pushing a shopping cart in the street, and then I'll be starving, and then I'll die in a gutter. Right?
Right.
All because you got a traffic jam. That's what we do to ourselves.
Yeah.
And we turn these things into catastrophes that never happen.
Yeah. Yeah. So, David, how does Unsubscribe from Anxiety, your book, how does that apply to entrepreneurship?
Well, one of the things, there are two ways it applies to entrepreneurship. First of all, the individual who is an entrepreneur, you want to recognize what's going on in your head and where are the self-doubts, where are the fears lying in that prevent you from taking the risks. And are they reasonable risks? Because the entrepreneurs love risk. That's where the opportunity lies, and that's where the profit lies. And so they go looking for the risks. So if you're an entrepreneur, you got to be able to recognize when I've got irrational fears and anxieties about what are perfectly reasonable risks to take. Another way it applies is if you've got a business. All businesses are made up of teams of people. Every business is kind of like an individual person. There's a collective consciousness, and there's a sort of a group think that goes on, and that group has its own self-doubts. We could never be a $10 million company, okay? Ones that are saying you're not going to be. And so a company or an entrepreneur needs to recognize where they're limiting themselves by their anxiety and self-doubts to get out of their own way. And I speak to a lot of businesses, and I help them understand where their where their own self-imposed limitations are, as opposed to where, in contrast to the dreams that they have, how do they get out of their own way? Because more often than not, we're our own biggest obstacle to success.
Wow. So, David, we're about to bring this interview to an end. I would like to ask you one final question, and let me get the your website. Let me get your website, David.
Sure. Our website, it is the letter I, and then a hyphen, and then fearless. So it's I-fearless.com.
Right. And can I get the book from that website?
Yes, you can access the book and places to get the book. You can also subscribe to our blog. We have a weekly blog. It's called Blog, about how to live a fearless life and how to overcome anxiety for yourself, and all kinds of really wonderful tips. And we just launched our YouTube channel as well, and we're going to be having lots of tips. We're starting in a couple of weeks. We're going to be posting 5 videos a week where people will be able to watch and say, I can apply that in my life and reduce my anxiety.
Wow. David, are you also available for speaking engagements? I
sure am. I love speaking. I'm a member of the National Speakers Association, and I do a lot of public speaking, but I love to get up in front of an audience and share with them how they can get rid of the anxiety that's holding them all back from what they can really achieve.
And where are you located?
I'll tell you, I'm located at an airport near you. I actually travel all over the country. I split my time between North and South. I'm a Canadian. I spend a lot of time up in Canada, in Toronto and Vancouver. I live down here in Savannah, Georgia. I'm heading to Florida and the Caribbean very shortly. I was just up in New York a couple of weeks ago. Where do you want me to be?
All right. That sounds amazing. So I just want to leave the listeners with something. We have about a month and a few days left before the year. We move into a new year. We want to finish 2019 strong. What can we do to finish 2019 on a strong note? What can we do?
Well, here's a great New Year's resolution for people. And it's not just a new year, it's a new decade. We're starting into 2020. It's a whole new decade. So let's make a new decade resolution to get anxiety out of our lives and to get fear and self-doubt out of our lives, to free us up, to remove the roadblocks that hold us back from accomplishing all the things that we know we can accomplish. We got a new year, we got a new decade coming, and when you and I talk again at the end of next year, and we'll both be able to look out and say, look at all these people that just removed their own roadblocks and accomplished incredible things that they previously had told themselves that they weren't capable of doing.
Right.
That's how you end out this year and start the next one really strong.
Well, usually when you go to an eye doctor, a person would like to have 20/20 eye vision. That's what most people would like to have.
Yep.
We're going into the year 2020. And I think a lot of speakers are going to be talking about.
I like that.
Yeah, a lot of speakers are going to be talking about this thing called vision. Vision is going to be big, huge, and next year. So what do you see as far as vision is concerned, David A. Stone?
Well, what I see is we're heading into an election year, and we've got a whole lot of anxiety and a lot of worry floating around the country. And if we could rid ourselves of that and say, look, I don't care which side of the debate you're on, recognize that so much of what limits you is the fear and anxiety that you carry around with yourself. And let's go into this being really, really optimistic about the future for ourselves and for our country. That would be fantastic.
Okay. So let me just share a little bit about my vision with you, David. One of the things that I would like to do in finishing this year and then moving into 2020 is they got this thing. Are you familiar with this thing called personal development? Are you familiar with that?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I would like to do, I would like to share this thing called personal development with more people and let them know that it's available and that it's something that they could use in their life. This thing called personal development. What is your definition of personal development?
What's my definition of personal development? It is taking yourself and achieving the potential that you have, reaching, growing, becoming more all the time.
Right. And another thing that I would like to do is share this thing called positive self-motivation and positive self-awareness. That's one of my goals moving into 2020, finishing the year, and then 2020. And also this thing called a positive mental attitude. How does a positive mental attitude come into play when you talk about unsubscribe from anxiety?
How does a positive mental attitude come in? Recognize that we've been trained and conditioned to instantly go to the negative. That's what's the worst thing that could happen. That's what we always say.
Right.
Let's catch ourselves that and saying, what's the best thing that could happen? Rather than instantly go into the negative side, let's instantly go to the positive side. Because as you well know, between your reticular activating system, which is the filter in your law of attraction, which helps you attract the things you want, you can attract negative things into your life, or you can attract positive things in your life.
Wow.
And the more your thoughts are positive, the more they're on the things that you want, and the more you're going to have into your life.
Yeah. As we bring this to an end, can you speak a little bit more about the reticular activating
system? Yeah.
System. Okay.
There's a bundle of nerves in your brain stem, and its job is to act like the search function on your computer. So if you are thinking, and what it does is it goes looking for the things that you are thinking about the most. So here's a fun little exercise for your listeners, okay? If they close their eyes just for a few minutes and or a few seconds, and think about the color blue. Think about blue, imagine the sky, imagine the water, imagine things that are blue, dark blue, light blue, bright blue, with your eyes closed, and then open your eyes and look what happens in the room around you. Suddenly, all these blue things pop out at you because you've set this filter, this reticular activating system. It's suddenly looking for blue stuff, and there it is. And if you're saying, oh, the world is horrible, the world is terrible, everybody's awful, the reticular activating system is going to go and find that stuff for you. And it's going to provide you with proof, because that's all you'll be able to see. But if you go the other way and say, no, I want to find the good things in life, I want to find the good people, I want to see good things going on, suddenly that's all you're going to see. And that will be your filter. That's an amazing tool that we're all given if we learn to use it properly. And I write about that in the book and explain how it works.
Wow.
And it's a remarkable thing and very, very powerful that we can put to use for ourselves to really improve the things that come into our lives. Here's another way it works. Do you ever think, boy, I would really like to have a red sports car. That would be so cool. And then all of a sudden, all you see around you on the roads are red sports cars. It's not that the red sports cars weren't there before. It's just all of a sudden your reticular activating system is pulling them out of the surroundings for you and bringing them to your attention. And it's the same with, I want to meet more friendly people. I want to meet more positive people. Well, just say that, and that's what's going to happen. Make that your intention, and that's what's going to happen.
Well, my intention is that I'm going to be reaching out to David A. Stone again, the author of Unsubscribe from Anxiety. I'm going to be reaching out to him again. And so let's see if this reticular activating system really works.
Okay. It does.
All right. David, let me get your website and contact info one more time, how people can reach you.
Sure. It is I-FearlessTV.com.
Right. All right.
I-FearlessTV.com.
All right. Thank you, David, for helping us
Everything you need is there.
Thank you for helping us, David, not be so fearless.
Rick.
All right. You have a great day now.
You too, Rick.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Thanks so much.
All right.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.